platforms like the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Again, on my play in Nigerian disability accessibility space, Nigeria is very conversant with CRPD, World Health Organization, International Telecommunication Union. So you must engage with them to ensure that national policies align with international human rights standards, offering a more cohesive approach to accessibility. Key factors, again, infrastructure and urban planning, best practices from global cities. A region's infrastructure is one of the most visible and immediate ways to foster accessibility, but it requires careful planning and investment. So here's what needs to be considered. And this was the main reason that NGZ Agsam Limited came into Nigeria and spent a number of years trying to drive this idea of universal design in urban planning. Cities need to adopt universal design principles, which ensure that all new public infrastructure is accessible to people of all abilities. Accessible public transport. We are rolling out a lot of trains and public transportation by rail. I do see stepped access into public transport, and these are new installations in the country. So when you adapt to public transport, it's vital that cities invest in systems that ensure inclusivity. Train carriages, for example, should not have steps in this time, especially when they're coming in new. So it's little things like that that affect Louise. I believe I'm pronouncing her name correctly. As the lady that spoke, Lois. Yes, okay. Yeah. And smart cities and the Internet of Things. With the rise of smart technologies, cities have an opportunity to improve accessibility by integrating Internet of Things solutions into urban planning. So the time to say, oh, we are not going to do these because, you know, the regular roads are not available anyway, so why are we doing accessibility? I heard that a lot. We're not yet there, we're not yet mature. And I was trying to say, no, we can step past it and we can use things like the Internet of Things, GPS apps, etc., to carry persons of disabilities along, regardless of where we are in the maturity for the able, as is said, and I put that in quotes. Public space design. Accessibility in urban planning extends to leisure and cultural spaces such as parks, museums, and recreation centers. Ensuring they are navigable and welcoming to people with all types of disabilities is important. I was on one of the IDPD events carried out for the tourism industry in Jerusalem, and that was just awesome. All the work that has been done to historical sites to make them inclusive. So it can be done without waiting for when we can do the physical change. You can adapt smart technologies. So some international cities, examples of urban environments that have been made exceptionally accessible. Copenhagen, a lot of Nigerians have been there for events. I know that because the Nigerian Institute of Architects, for example, were there. It's a leading example of a smart city with accessible public transport, inclusive urban spaces. The city integrates smart technology like GPS apps that help people with visual impairments navigate public transport systems into its infrastructure. And I know Paul asked a question that why is there a lot of focus on visual impairment. All other impairments are also included in universal design principles, which then cover everybody to be able to access equally. International standards, the Global Universal Design Commission, this advocates for integrating universal design into the planning of public spaces, ensuring that accessibility is considered from the beginning of urban development. And it's crucial for creating cities that are not only accessible to people with disabilities, but also friendly for aging populations. So we must all realize that this is for all of us. We are all going to get old, at least we pray to get old. And so if you're going to get old, then you're going to need these things. It's not something that you can avoid. So adapting to local context. Now, this is extremely important. While global cities have set the standard, each region must adapt these strategies to its own unique needs, its own demographics and local conditions. So this is where you invite people like us to come in, those of us who have lived in the country, were born in the country, gone out and collected some knowledge from outside and are very willing to bring it back home. So education and awareness, learning from global campaigns. Again, as the earlier speakers have said, there's an awareness generation gap there, and a number of ways that we can consider to bridge those gaps. Education and training, critical to building a culture of inclusion. And here's how education can play a pivotal role. You're looking at professional training. Many industries require specific training to ensure that accessibility is integrated into their work. So, for example, architects should be trained in universal design. Developers should learn web accessibility standards. Customer service teams should be trained in interacting with people with disabilities. Now, this is the one that is very, very dear to my heart, inclusive curricula. And I do know that I did, visit the National Universities Commission over and over, trying to say, look, let's look at what the curricula can do to embed accessibility and disability studies into their curricula. Specialized programs for students with disabilities should also be developed hand in hand. Disability awareness campaigns, as much as training for professionals is essential, raising awareness among the public about disability and inclusion is also crucial. Peer learning and engagement involving people with disabilities in education, whether in schools or through workshops, is essential. So let's look at some international models. Scotland's Equality and Human Rights Commission runs educational campaigns to promote understanding and awareness of the needs of people with disabilities. The European Disability Forum, EDF, regularly runs campaigns like the European Access City Award, which highlights cities in Europe that have made significant strides in making their environments more accessible. The Civic Trust Awards, which is one that I have been engaged in running universal design assessments and sitting on their national judging panels, they play a significant role in raising awareness of the importance of accessibility for built environments by recognizing and celebrating projects that prioritize inclusivity, sustainability, and accessibility in their design and execution. This is one that we might want to pay very close attention to in order to encourage uptake. Training professionals globally. Now, this is another one that is upmost in my heart. I see that the accessibility web AAP Nigeria website says that they are certifying, which is good. Now we need to align with what the global world is doing, because remember, accessibility is a global thing. If as a person with a disability, if I travel out of the country, I want to be able to not have to be met with a totally different set of rules and of engagement, so to speak. I want to be able to use what I'm using in Nigeria abroad as well. I don't have to relearn how to move around. So the IAAP, which I sit on the Global Leadership Council, plays a pivotal role in training and certifying accessibility professionals globally. Through its certification programs, training resources, global network, and advocacy for accessibility education, IAAP helps build a highly skilled workforce that can tackle the growing demand for inclusive and accessible environments. They go beyond that and also influence global accessibility standards and policy development, making it a crucial player in the ongoing effort to ensure accessibility for all. So by leveraging IAAP's training programs, I have done some myself, and one of the ones, because Africa is where I am excited about, I have done some training program to do with emerging economies and generating awareness and training on how to make built environments accessible. You can get on the website, get your organizations, your teams to engage and watch such professional development trainings. I'll just leave that for a while. I'm watching my time. The universities also in the UK are training urban planners, architects, digital developers on accessibility standards. So if we want to roll out, say the National Universities Commission wants to do something, TED Fund wants to fund something, then you can start looking at what other people are doing and sort of like collaborate with them. Public education campaigns, again, there are global social media movements that have been successful in changing perceptions about disability by showcasing the potential of people with disabilities. So these campaigns can help shift public attitudes from seeing accessibility as a burden to recognizing it as an essential component of a truly inclusive society. So we localize education. So while global best practices in education can guide us, we must ensure that accessibility training programs are culturally and linguistically relevant to the local population. I did a presentation, well, I don't know, about 3-4 years ago with the World Forum Foundation, and they, sorry about this, and I did this thing, and they sort of like talked about children's play. And I said, you know, a lot of children's play does not reflect what we play with in Nigeria and does not include persons with disabilities, children with disabilities. So it's this kind of things that you have to make sure that when you borrow, so that we're not going into color mentality, let me say that, and we're trying to make sure that we're marrying things to the local population, considering what local disabilities are for us and adapting training to regional contexts. So let me wheeze fast, I'm still too far up. Business engagement, global trends and innovations. For a region to truly develop its accessibility industry, it's essential that businesses actively engage in and support accessibility efforts. How do you do that? I mentioned it earlier. Give business incentives, tax cuts, insurances, funding, grants, recognition like awards, and all of those sort of things will make people become more aware that there is accessibility industry coming into the country in full force. Inclusive employment practices, encouraging businesses to adopt inclusive hiring practices. Now, this is another big area, and it's not to be taken lightly at all. All sorts of rehashing has to be done to provide reasonable accommodations and make sure that these persons with disabilities are being employed. Entrepreneurship in accessibility. The accessibility industry offers great potential for entrepreneurship, particularly in technology and services. So supporting startups that focus on innovative accessibility solutions can foster growth in the sector. Corporate social responsibility, I can't flog that too much. Businesses should be encouraged to include accessibility as part of their CSR initiatives. There are global examples that show how inclusivity can be both a moral and economic advantage. Global success stories like Microsoft, they are big players on the Nigerian space. Apple, leading examples of tech companies that have embraced accessibility. Amazon and others have implemented features enabling people with disabilities to engage more easily with their online shopping platforms. We know that our youth are very, very present on online shopping platforms, you know, putting their businesses forward on those platforms, encouraging them to take up accessibility by supporting them through it is extremely important for raising the accessibility industry up higher up in the agenda of things. The rise of assistive technology startups globally shows that accessibility isn't just a niche market, but a growing sector. Companies in the West sort of like global volunteer-based apps that connect blind people with sighted volunteers via video call, for example. That's all stuff that we can sort of like align with. There are innovative ways that benefit not just people with disabilities, but the society at large. Government and financial institutions can create funding opportunities. I've said that before for startups, so I'm not going to push that too much. Now, this is the main thing. Stakeholder collaboration, global networks, and partnerships. So you collaborate inside. I've mentioned a number of places: National Universities Commission, TED Fund, Microsoft, those of them who are playing the big tech boys and girls playing in the Nigerian space. And some of the universities across the geopolitical zones. These are all stakeholders that can be pulled together to make accessibility a more definite success. But apart from that, collaboration internationally as well, participating in international initiatives and networks allows regions to stay ahead of global trends in accessibility. So let's look at some of the global platforms. The Global Initiative for Inclusive ICTs. Again, Nigeria's accessibility professionals are pretty aware of G3 ICT. Likes of World Health Organization, who actually sponsor projects that have a high accessibility content, the International Labour Organization, etc. So their efforts in ensuring equal access to technology, employment, health, and social services have been key to the success of accessibility initiatives globally. Again, engagement with disability advocacy groups. Disability organizations are a vital resource in understanding the true needs of the community. However, worthy of note, and I say this all the time, processes and activities requiring input from persons with disabilities should be considered for remuneration. If somebody is going to help you to do a major research into an area that you don't know anything about, if you're getting paid for it, they should be paid for it. So this is my specific suggestion to the Nigerian space. We can lead on certain things. We don't have to follow the global world. And to do things the way. I remember the very first job I did with an oil and gas giant. I invited a team of persons with disabilities advocates to come and help me to deliver a project. And I paid for that service. So it's important to understand that if somebody is doing a great job, regardless of whether it is for them, they should be remunerated as well. Disability Innovation Hub, GDI Hub, based in London, is an international collaboration of disability organizations, academic institutions, and businesses focused on advancing accessibility through research. Those are the kind of people you want to align with. Public-private partnerships, that cannot be understated. Governments, private businesses, and non-profits should collaborate to create a shared vision for accessibility. Some of the successes, Accessible City project in Melbourne has been a successful collaboration between local government, businesses, and disability organizations, resulting in significant improvements in public transportation, digital accessibility. The World Bank funds projects that include accessibility as a core component, worthy of note. So helping developing countries integrate inclusive design is one of the key interests. Social and cultural factors. Developing a culture of accessibility isn't just about compliance. I've said that before. It's about fostering an inclusive society. So how? Change public perceptions. Lois said that. Public attitudes towards disability often stem from ignorance or outdated perceptions. So it's essential to work on shifting attitudes through education and representation. Again, this is a gradual process, and you need to involve people who are aware of how to step these projects. I am an accessibility certified program project professional in the first instance. And so it's developing these programs, creating the right roadmap from point A to B, getting accessibility industry for the nation in general to be at a high level of maturity, both in the digital space and the built environment space. Cultural sensitivities, recognizing that disability experiences differ across cultural factors. So when we borrow from the global world, we tailor to what is happening on our home ground. Economic empowerment. I'll give
I
one.
the last one.
Yep, almost. Yes, I
Okay.
saw that. Sorry about that. It could ensuring people with disabilities have access to quality education. We can't overflog that. I will move because I want to go to finances. Consider social funding and financial support. Financial resources are often a major barrier. Everybody has said it and will continue to say it. So I'm going to flog that. Grants, subsidies, very important. Adopting international models of funding, for example, Accessible Canada Act sets aside specific funding for accessibility projects. So you set aside funding for those, and we can implement similar funding schemes to support local businesses and communities. Private investment in accessibility as well. Affordable solutions. It's essential to focus on creating affordable solutions first and foremost. Social impact investing has gained momentum globally. Venture capitalism can also play a significant role in scaling accessible technology, impact global crowdfunding even. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can fund and make accessibility possible. So conclusion, a path forward. These points together provide a solid framework for developing an accessibility industry in any region. They emphasize the importance of leadership, investment, innovation, and collaboration. So these are the key things across sectors, across regions, and across continents. So the goal is to create a more inclusive world for all. So not just inclusive in Nigeria, and then when you step out, you're all confused. To build a successful accessibility industry, we must combine global best practices with local context. By learning from international successes in policy, infrastructure, business innovation, and stakeholder collaboration, we can create an inclusive environment that fosters accessibility for all. So let's embrace these global standards and work together to make accessibility a priority. Because when everyone has equal access, we all benefit. So thank you so much. You can reach me on my LinkedIn profile, and we can begin a conversation from there, or you shoot me an email, info@ngzltd.co.uk. I repeat, info@ngzlimited.co.uk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You cut across virtually every aspect: awareness, education, collaboration, leading by example. You've said it all. I wouldn't know other questions from here or online.
Yes.
On site and online. I'm sure we have questions for them. Okay, good. That's go ahead.
Sorry, can I use the mic? Like, take questions.
Somebody's online. There's
one
online. Let's hear you. Go ahead.
That's me, right?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Great kudos to Ngozi all the way there. I think it's quite gratifying to hear Nigerians speaking to this global standard of accessibility and all that it takes, at least in the 21st century. Please, Ngozi, what can you say to the claim by donors that persons with disabilities or organizations of persons with disabilities lack the requisite expertise to attract funding for development, a disability inclusive development, taking it from the perspective of your wealth of knowledge? Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, I'm not entirely familiar with that, but you've said it, so that's possibly the way it is. Well, I think these are all the issues with regards to connecting yourself, aligning yourself with the global world and indeed the global players. So what tends to happen is there are sets of structured ways, strategies developed, maturity levels that are expected before you can then accept that someone is meeting the criteria for actually being taken as seriously on the playfield of accessibility. So it's those kind of gaps that you then need to cover. It does not mean that there is nobody available. It just means that you have not hit the maturity levels where they're expecting that you should be before you can then see yourself as a level player and then get funding to do things and implement whatever strategies that you have. So my suggestion will be things like get your accessibility professionals certified globally. Align your certifications with global standards to ensure that you are playing on the same maturity field. So I'm not going to buy ice if I'm an Eskimo. So it's the same thing. You know, I'm not going to put my money where I cannot check the buttons. You've met your ESG requirements. You've, you know, sort of like you have certified people that have actually taken on training and passed, which means that they have a level of knowledge and expertise in the area before they can then come up to me and say, can I have this amount of funding to do this amount of implementing? It's also important to move from saying to doing. So most donors will expect you to have put something on ground in the first instance, and then they come and upscale you. So it's a lot. It's a big space. What I would suggest in this is to develop a roadmap towards ensuring that the accessibility industry in the country is recognized elsewhere. A key thing is to align yourself with the international players, which is why I would suggest in the first instance, because this is how I scaled up myself towards being heard and understood, was to align myself with what they were doing, certify myself, get the certifications. There is the general certification CPAC, which is a core competence for accessibility, core competencies for accessibility professionals. And one of the other things I would suggest, get your leaders especially to become accessibility certified. Once you're accessibility certified, it's impossible not to be able to understand what needs to be done. It's just not possible. So because you have it there, the knowledge is there, the collaboration is there, the updating is there. You're constantly being updated with what is happening, you know, elsewhere. So I hope I've you know, answered your question.
Ngozi, you've done so well. Just this has to be you know, pointed out at this point that AAP is taking off, and for Barrister and his team to have, you know, an insight into what lies ahead, because the sea is deep and wide and turbulent, but opportunities abound. So I wish you the very best, and I don't have much contribution from this end, but questions on this occasion. So, but I thank you for giving me the opportunity to also make my voice heard. Thank you so much, and congratulations, everyone in the house.
You're welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Okay, guys, before we let you go, we have another question in house. One second, yes.
Thank you very much, Ngozi, for that wonderful presentation. And if I'm not mistaken, I will understand that you made your presentation on Google Text Platform Standard, which informed that accessibility is ultimately permitted. The way it is done here is done elsewhere in the world. My question goes this way: how can governments, organizations, and industries worldwide harmonize and implement the accessibility guidelines to ensure consistent and equitable access to digital technology for persons with disabilities? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, it was echoing, but I was reading the closed captioning to sort of like get it. I think you're saying, how can the global world come together to ensure that the Nigerian accessibility space is recognized. Am I correct?
I'm saying, how can governments, organizations, and industries worldwide harmonize and implement the accessibility guidelines to ensure consistent and equitable access to digital technology for persons with disabilities?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So I thought that somebody handled that digital accessibility space. Again, this is where the collaborative collaboration comes into play. So all organizations, and I think Barrister Onwe will speak more about the Accessibility Acts and the various areas that they come from. So all of these are separate but aligned. So it's important to align what the disability law for Nigeria is saying. So that when you then go to implement, you're implementing in alignment with other global players as well. Now, let's bear in mind that without making it sound like a call out, it's not a call out. The Nigerian disability space is still in its infancy, which is brilliant because it means that it has been born. So you grow step by step. So I would say that there would be involvement from our end, from the international end, if they are letting, if you can sort of like align with them in partnerships, for example. So the Association of Accessibility Professionals Nigeria can partner with International Association of Accessibility Professionals globally. And I don't know how that can play out, but these are one of the ways where how different organizations and different funders, NGOs, the big players in the accessibility space can then come together and lift any newcomers into the same levels that they are to then carry Nigerian accessibility along.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Ngozi, thank you very much. I am Yusuf Yodo, founder for AAP Nigeria. It is an honor to have you in this event. Daniel Onwe did one of the best things he can do for AAP Nigeria by connecting us with you. We are so happy, we are so grateful for your support to us at this nascent stage of our growth. I'd like to state on behalf of all the members, especially the management, the governing council of AAP Nigeria, that we automatically extend our membership to you. Do you agree? Yeah. Okay. So Ngozi is a Nigerian that has known it all. Is out there across the world implementing accessibility. Ngozi, we will be honored if you accept our membership. That is first to start with. And then secondly, to begin to ensure that we work together in this field. Like I've continued to tell my team that this thing we are doing is a whole new sector. It's a sector on its own. So the work is just huge. And we're happy for your presentation. You expanded on all of the areas. When Diwesh waited for us, and then he said he couldn't wait again, he was going. Diwesh is the Indian guy. So I think he had gone, but he was supposed to talk about accessibility and financing. But I wasn't feeling too bad again when I saw that in the concluding part, okay, the word is still there. Okay. In the concluding part of your presentation, you have hit issues of financing, issues of grant making and all that. We thank you very much. And also to inform you that we are not starting application or training very soon. We had already reached out to the AAP. We have sent correspondences. We're already exchanging correspondences. And now that you are our member, you are going to take it forward for us. We have not only asked to the member of the AAP, we have also asked that will be a chapter of the AAP, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. So, and I've received a response from the contact person, and we hope that with you, we will be able to push that forward and to actualize it. We are very much intent on connecting with the international players and stakeholders. And that was immediately we started up here, we begin to reach out to the IAP and all of the stakeholders out there. It is for that reason that we're able to even get somebody like you on board with us, speaking to us today. So after now, we will show you how far we have gone with our request with IAP and other stakeholders. So we thank you very much. We're so happy that you're with us. And this is just the beginning. We'll get in contact with you, and as members, we're going to work together. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it a lot.
And now hearing what that means is thank you so much, and that the good things will come to Nigeria. Bye.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank. Yeah.
Yes, Igbo.
That is solid Owerri that I spoke there. It's not Oyibo.
All right, thank you so much, beloved Ngozi. Thank you for that. And we want to thank all our stakeholders and participants, both on site and on